Hello, everyone, and welcome to this open house for our Climate Change Learning for Action program at Terra.do. My name is Greg Findley, and I am the director of the program here and have been for some time. And I'll talk you through the program a little bit. And then we have a couple of graduates of our program, Richard and David, who are with us. Thank you both for being here. And we'll hear from them a little bit, and then we'll take questions and answers from all of you. If you have questions as I'm running through, I'll run through a small presentation about LFA. By the way, LFA is Learning for Action. I'll refer to it that way all the time, so you know what I'm talking about. Um, and if you have questions while I'm going through that, please put them into the chat. I'm not very good at multitasking. I probably won't see them until after I'm done talking, but then I can refer to those, or David or Richard can answer in there. And then you can use the raise hand function or just come off mute when we're done. So I'll speak, then Richard and David will speak, and then you all can ask questions and we'll answer your questions as we go. And we're here to help, so please ask away. So let's see. Hopefully you all can see my slides now. Again, thank you. This is the Terra.do open house for climate change learning for action. And I'll start with a little bit about Terra.do itself. Terra.do is a company that was founded in 2020 with the ambitious mission of getting 100 million people working on climate change solutions by 2030. And that's an incredibly ambitious proposition because it's a big problem. Climate is, and addressing it takes all of us. It takes as many people as possible working on this as we can get. We're still quite a ways away from that 100 million, but hey, we're going to keep trying and hope it scales and escalates and our impact grows. Terra.do is a large online community and a company that focuses on three main things. Learning. We have climate education courses. Learning for Action. This is our flagship program, and I'll talk a lot more about why that is and what it is in just a moment. But we have other courses. Right now, we have some asynchronous online courses. We have some other cohort-based courses where people go through them live. We have a strong online community on Slack and on our app. Thousands of people who are working in climate or wanting to work in climate or concerned about climate who share with each other. And all of this is with an emphasis on do. The name of our company is Terra.do, not Terra.edu. So it's not an education-focused company, it's an action-focused company. And so we support learners and everyone in getting to work on addressing climate change, and that is our ultimate goal. This program, Climate Change Learning for Action, is a 12-week interdisciplinary climate action accelerator, and that's quite a mouthful. But the goal is to accelerate your path to working on climate, whatever that is, whatever that looks like for you. Um, we have now run 32 cohorts. And again, a cohort is groups of people starting together. So we've been doing this since 2020. Fellows, we call our learners in the program fellows. We call it a fellowship. We've had people from more than 86 different countries join LFA, and a pretty typical cohort, again, a group starting together, have people from 20 to 30 different countries represented in the cohort. About half of those are from the United States. Roughly 17% are from India, 7 or 8% from the UK, and then a scattering of others from Europe, and then Latin America, Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East. So we usually represent all of these regions. We have well over 4,000 graduates of our program at this point, many of whom are still actively engaged in our community. The course itself is a mix of asynchronous on your own learning, where you access courses and other things on your own, and interactive learning, where we come together live on Zoom. It's all on Zoom, it's all web-based. And I'll talk a lot more about the program in just a moment. The time required for the program is people typically spend 6 to 10 hours a week. And I do want to call out, if you don't have at least 6 hours a week to commit to this for 12 weeks, you probably won't get a lot out of it or as much as you might otherwise. Uh, 80+% of our fellows spend 6 to 10 hours a week on it. I have had an alum come to an open house and she said she spent over 40 hours a week. She was unemployed and she dug into everything that we made available. And that's mind-boggling that she did that and incredible. But most people don't do that. And there's no expectation that you would do that. We offer a lot of optional things that might apply to you, that might be of interest to you, but they might not. One of the great things is you get lifetime access to the course material and all of the recordings of the live events. So you can always refer back to those, and we keep those updated so you can constantly refer back and learn more and more. So, uh, sorry, I have modified this version up here. It shouldn't be on there. We made a little bit of change to it. But what is LFA? We call it a transformational journey that accelerates climate action. And why do I say that? That's not my words. I hear from fellows when they graduate that this program was transformational for me. And it's pretty cool to see and to watch people do that. We focus also, like Terra.do, we have three main tenets of the program. We focus on learning. So in this course, we focus on basic climate literacy skills. And we think that you can't solve a problem that you don't really understand. So we spend a lot of time making sure we understand the problem. And then we understand society and what we're working within as we try to make changes. And then we look at all of the solutions. And I'll talk about the path that we go through in LFA in just a moment. We also spend a great deal of time working on community building, connecting, getting to know others. We also work on emotional resilience. Broken people can't fix broken things. And we therefore try to make sure that we all are whole and supported. Working on climate can be challenging and difficult. And many of our fellows are also looking for jobs, which can be difficult and emotionally challenging. Combine those two together, and it can be really difficult. And it really does help to have a community of support and to know that others around the world are also looking to act. And then we spend a fair bit of time working on the do part, and that is what needs to be done and how does it happen. You'll often hear we need to electrify everything, but there's a whole lot missing there. Like, how do we electrify everything? What does that look like? And we'll spend time in particular in our live labs digging into what does that look like to electrify everything, and what are your skills, interests, and backgrounds, and where might they fit into working on climate change? I had an alum again come to this one of these sessions and said, when I came to LFA, I was sure I wanted to work on electrifying everything. I wanted to work on energy. And she got into the program and realized I'm really not that excited about that, but I am excited about food and farming and agriculture. And she ended up getting a job with a regenerative agriculture company. And so we spent a lot of time exploring the solutions, but also looking at what is your interest, what and background fit into this. This is a slide that we use through the lab program, and it's got 12 circles on it. And each of those 12 circles represents the 12 labs or the 12 weeks of the program. At the beginning, we focus on getting to know each other a little bit, but pretty quickly we drop into the natural systems, climate science, carbon emissions, global and local impacts. And you'll notice the slide is a roller coaster, and that is because emotionally this is somewhat of what it feels like. And I like to call it out so that people are prepared. No matter what, if you've been paying attention to climate a great deal or you haven't, when you really dig into the climate science, look at our emissions trajectories and look at the global and local impacts, it's a little bit depressing. And we just want to name that. Our goal is not to depress you, but again, we believe you can't solve something if you don't really understand it. So we spend time understanding it. Then we move into looking into the human systems. We look at economics, politics. These are the systems that have gotten us to where we are today and that we're working within as we try to make solutions. In some cases, the conclusion might be we need to change those systems pretty dramatically to get where we need to go. We bring in a justice lens in this part of the program. We believe that the goal is not just to cut emissions, but it's actually to create a better future for all. And so that's really important. And we look at mental models and climate communication. Communicating about climate change is really important, no matter what role you're going to have. And then we go pretty quickly into the climate solutions part. And this is pretty hopeful and exciting. And we apply a systems lens and a justice lens as we go forward. We get into the solutions. And then at the end, the last assignment is your personal action plan. The roller coaster and the slide goes down a little bit just because that's the image that I had of a roller coaster. Um, but there is a little bit of a letdown after 12 weeks when you realize, wow, next week I'm not going to get to see all my buddies that I just made over 12 weeks in this program, and I'm ready to go forth. And so I was a fellow myself in 2021, and I remember that first Tuesday, labs are on Tuesdays. First Tuesday after the program ended, it was like, where is everybody? I missed them. And then you go forward. It works out okay. I do want to let you know the end of the course, we poll people how they are feeling, and some of the biggest outcomes that we get. People are motivated, hopeful, they have a sense of agency, they're determined, energized, informed, inspired, ready to go forward. And this is where we hope you will be as well when you go through our program. This is consistent. See this every cohort. These are similar answers to what people say. There's still a sense of urgency and motivated with the right amount of gloom, I think is a fairly common response as well, right? We're not on the proper trajectory right now, but that doesn't mean that we can't change and do something better. LFA graduates become incredible climate leaders. They use this climate literacy and the systems view and justice view lenses. They get great jobs and make incredible employees. We've had a number of people start businesses. People have led their companies to take climate action and really made a big deal. Got others who have influenced friends and family. We've had people, retired folks who joined, they wanted to change their church or their congregation or their community or to have meaningful discussions with their families, and all of them have gotten great value out of the program. We've had journalists who've gone on to learn about climate and dedicate their careers to writing about it. A lot of people come to the program because they want to get a climate job. And I recently was asked to lead a session on how to get a climate job for European Climate Week. And as I did that, I thought about what does it take to get a job working on climate? Well, what do you need? You need to have some climate literacy. You need to understand the basics of climate change, at least to understand the problem, to understand the solutions. You also need a community or a network. There are a lot of people out there looking for jobs. It is not the best job seeker climate at the moment, pun on climate intended. Um, and you need a network of people. I once saw a job listed on LinkedIn. They've changed how they list this now, but it said 1,500 people had applied to this one job. Now LinkedIn only says over 100 people have applied. They don't show you the actual numbers. Well, if you want to get a job at that organization and you just randomly send in your resume or CV, the odds are you won't even be looked at. But if you know people who might have worked there, someone through from Terra who might have worked there or know someone there, they can get your CV looked at, give you a leg up on getting a job there. It really does make a difference to have a network you can tap into. And then you need to understand your skills, background, and interests and where you fit in, what you want to work on. Notice that those three things are what LFA is built to do. We do all of those as part of our core, part of our program. And it can help you get a climate job, but it can help you just take strong climate action. And then the fourth thing that you need if you're going to get a job is everything that you need to get any other job. You need a strong resume, cover letter, CV, interviewing skills, etc. And I'll talk about, we work on those as well within LFA. So LFA provides support for job seekers. We do live career and networking sessions. We bring in climate career coaches, professional career coaches. Our two main coaches right now are both LFA graduates as well, which is fantastic. They understand the program. They understand what fellows are going through. We do an intro to climate career session. We do resume CV sessions, LinkedIn masterclass, job search fundamentals, networking, a number of other things. In addition, we have a workbook that you can go through asynchronously that was created for a course that we used to offer the course separately. Now we just offer it to all of our LFA fellows as they're going through the program or after. We have an experts mentorship program where you can connect with people working in the program that opens up in the second half of the course and continues for 3 months after the course. Our community on Slack of all these people working in climate. And then we have one of the biggest climate jobs boards out there, the Terra.do jobs board. So we do a lot to help people get jobs. I often get asked, so what are the results of this? And I'll just tell you that we don't really know. And the reason we don't really know is that we don't always hear about it when people get jobs. So in 2023, so a couple of years ago now, we went and dug through LinkedIn data and we tried to look up all of our fellows and looked up who was working. And what we discovered is that Learning for Action is a great way to transition to working on climate. It's better than many other programs out there and other things. At the time of our analysis, half of our graduates were working full-time in climate roles. Keep in mind that not everybody wants to work in a climate role. Many people want to stay within their own job and bring a climate lens to that, or they're retired, or they want to work towards something later down the road. that 65% of people after 18 months had gotten climate jobs. Also, more than 70 organizations now have hired more than one Terra.do fellow. And for those organizations, seeing Terra.do on your resume CV is actually something that stands out, and they are more likely to want to talk to you because they've been impressed with our fellows. So our people have gone out to work for a number of different companies. Here are some of the logos of those. Fellows have started more than 80 different companies coming out of LFA, and happy to talk about these, but I want to talk about what's it like to go through the program itself. So the course, I said 6 to 10 hours. We offer a lot. People often say going through the program feels like drinking from a fire hose. But I always want to guide people to just go to the drinking fountain instead. I can help you figure out what parts to pay attention to. If you want to get a course completion certificate, we have four things that are required, and they're marked in green. You'll notice only three of them on this slide. The next slide has the final one. But we have the classes. We have 20 different classes. They are asynchronous. Go through them on your own time. We don't release the entire course book all at once. And the reason for that is that we want everyone reading the energy classes at the same time because we're going to discuss energy that week. We're going to have guest talks on energy. We're going to have a deep dive. Of course, some people fall behind, and that's okay. Read it at your own leisure when you get there. On Mondays, we have coffee chats and career sessions. These are all optional for those who are wanting whatever is offered there. What's a coffee chat? Coffee chat is a time to chat with me, to tell me how it's going, to ask questions, to meet with Anshuman Bapna, co-founder of the program, and others on Tuesdays. This is one of the core components of LFA. We have our live lab sessions. Now, for some people, if you're in India, a Tuesday evening Pacific time lab might be Wednesday morning for you. So I'll say Tuesday, but it could actually be on Wednesday. These are 90 minutes where you come together with around 25 fellows and an expert instructor, and we go through that roller coaster. We go through the different topics that we're learning about each week, and we practice courageous climate conversations, and we get to know each other. And those people in the lab become your climate squad. They're the people that you really get to know. You work with them well, and often they become lifelong friends. I have friends from my lab group from 2021, and we still are in touch. Wednesdays, we have expert guest sessions. Expert guest speakers come in and talk. Um, these are required that you attend or watch the recordings. And if you can't attend live, you can always watch the recording, not a problem. On Thursdays, we have deep dive labs where we have an expert come in and go deeper on the topic of the week. So again, on energy, we have an energy expert working in the field of renewable and clean energy come in and talk about that. And then on Fridays, we have these optional sessions, cohort connections, co-working on assignments, etc., networking, get to know others working in the program. The final required component is the assignments. We do have 5 assignments. 3 of them are individual, 2 are in teams. These are not designed to be busy work or to prove to us what you're learning. They're designed to help you on your journey to working in climate. And most people say they are very useful at that. The very first assignment, which is listed up here, it is sort of a dreaming exercise. And some people have been thinking about climate for a long time and they know what they're trying to accomplish. Others haven't. And all we ask you to do is think about what kind of world would you like to see in 2040? And let's assume that we've addressed the worst of the climate crisis and made things different. What would look different for you? What would smell different? What would look different? What would sound different? What would your life be like? And what role might you have played? And we don't care what your answers are. We really just want to get you thinking about a different future and what that might look like. And it really sets up the rest of the program if you do that. Want to encourage you to join an upcoming cohort. Application deadline for our next one is July 23. The start date is July 28th. We do offer scholarships. So if the price of the course is high for you, please, when you apply, say, I do need a scholarship and let us know what percent off you need. And we will do our very best to help you join us. We want people working on climate. The reason we do this is we want more people working on climate change. So our goal is to get as many of you joining us as possible. You also can pay in installments. You could pay in 3 equal installments to make it easier, so you don't have to pay all at once. My favorite feature is we have a 3 week no questions asked refund policy. The reason I say it's my favorite, when I was thinking about joining, I'd actually been working in climate for a while, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to take a course like this or not. The pandemic was still going on, things were kind of quiet, and my wife convinced me that if you don't like it, get your money back, just quit. And I signed up and I liked it. In fact, I liked it so much I'm still here 4 years later. But I wouldn't have joined if I hadn't had that option to get my money back. We say no questions asked, but we actually usually do ask one question, which is, was there something we could have done differently to make your experience better so that we can learn from that? But you don't have to answer, of course. If this date doesn't work for you, the next course begins on October 20th. We always kick off every cohort with a keynote, and their upcoming keynote is with Dr. Zachary Labe. He's a climate scientist and he does incredible visualizations, charts and graphs and all sorts of things. And he's going to talk about his work in looking to find the signal in all the noise. He also has an interesting story in that he was recently laid off in the United States when Doge did a number of cuts, and he'll talk a little bit about his concerns about climate science and how we're losing climate science data because of all of this. Just to give you some ideas of other talks that we've had recently, we had Belen Perez, who works in Ecuador with indigenous communities, talking about halting deforestation. And we had Dr. Fidel Kabu from Africa. His talk was Decolonize to Decarbonize, a Pan-African Vision for a Multipolar World of Peace and Sustainable Prosperity. On that note, I am going to stop. And David, you were the first one to join that I saw today. So I'm going to pass to you if that's okay.
Sure,
Thank you
absolutely.
for being here. Yeah.
Yeah. So first off, I'd just like to express my gratitude to Greg and the rest of the team. I think the work that they do is not easy at all, but I do truly believe it's incredibly important. It matters to many of us who've benefited from this platform that they've built with Terra, and that they continue to invest a lot of time and energy into. So huge thank you. Um, my name is David Stile. I was a part of the Okapi cohort. If you don't know what an Okapi is, I didn't know it's also known as a forest giraffe. Just a little fun fact there. Our group completed the course in March of 2025, and I mentioned it in the chat, but I'm based in the DC area. And for me, I recently navigated the transition successfully from I was working at a high-tech communications company to a role now in customer success. It's the same type of work. I was doing customer success work before, but now I'm focused on school bus fleet electrification. So that's I'm pretty excited about the transition, and I've really been enjoying the new role and the new position. But getting here to the new role was a journey, and I'll rewind the clock a little bit to walk you through uh, the steps that I took and the process that I went through to making that transition happen. For me, 2023 was a year when I developed a heightened awareness and concern about the climate challenges that occurred. I think prior to that, I was well aware that climate change was a thing, but I never really dug into it and took the time and energy to really investigate like all of the details behind the seriousness of the issue. I kind of saw it as a far off issue. And the pivotal moment of alarm for me was I actually attended a alumni climate and energy series. There was an author by the name of Robert DeSaro who wrote a book on global warming, who presented it, and he did 4 sessions. And I got more and more concerned with each session. At the time, I was in month 4 or 5 with a newborn. It was my second child, and I came to the realization that no, this isn't like 100-year off thing from now. There's a compressed timeline, and there's lots of solutions that are out there that people need to be working on. And so that was a big eye opener for me. And it started to change my thinking, and I decided to start getting involved and taking action, starting with at the local level. I started educating myself more, read books like Project Drawdown from Paul Hawken, got involved at the local level with my city's Environmental Sustainability Council, gained practical knowledge about electrification. That was a big initiative in our city, was promoting things like heat pumps when heating systems fail. So I took the Rewiring America course and gained additional knowledge in that space. And that inspired co-forming a local organization that's a volunteer-based that kind of does some advocacy to get awareness out there for people to know what options are available from an electrification standpoint within their household. So that was some things that were happening at a personal level, but simultaneously during the same period of time, I was also seeking professional growth. And there was a bit of, I would say, paralysis that I was feeling about how to make the transition happen. I felt overwhelmed by all of the possibilities that were out there, and I just really didn't know where to get started. I was fortunate. There was a mentor of mine that nudged me to start getting out there. Like, you need to talk to people. You need to attend events. So I went to a couple conferences. In 2023, I went to Green Build, which is like green building kind of stuff. It's more kind of construction industry related. And then 2024, I went to Verge, which was climate tech related. And that's where I learned about the Terra program. That's where I discovered this program and decided to give it a try. And for me, the objectives, I had two primary objectives. One was pathfinding because I didn't know where to go and which direction to take. So I wanted professional clarity. And then the second was strategic networking through community. I really didn't know how to approach networking. It's not something that I think I ever really learned how to do properly. It was just something that was intimidating for me. So the highlights for me as I went through the Terra program were I found there was a incredibly supportive community that lowered the barriers for networking. Even before I joined the program, I think there was somebody who had been involved in an open house. I reached out to them, had a brief conversation, and they were so welcoming, so encouraging. The people really, it's kind of like we're all in this together. We're trying to address this large problem. And as Greg mentioned earlier, there's many different facets and solutions and domains. So you need all hands on deck for solving this. And so people are very welcoming and encouraging. And he followed up with a wealth of resources. So I was just really impressed right off the bat with the quality of the community. There's within my cohort and my lab sessions, just a broad range of people with incredibly diverse and interesting backgrounds, um, including people who've actually successfully founded or led organizations before. So you really get all different types of workers and ranges of work. So I found that to be really powerful and compelling. And then uh, I also, I'll just note that some of my other fellows within my lab session, I got to know them very well. They were if they were in domains that I was interested in pursuing, very willing and generous about providing introductions, as Greg mentioned. And that's one of the most effective ways to get conversations is to get introductions. And so I found that my ability to actually successfully get people to respond and have conversations was vastly increased, and I had much more success with the networking aspect side of things. And then just the quality of the content itself, the depth of it fostered these meaningful connections. Those weekly labs, my lab leader was Nina. She had such high energy, made it really exciting to attend on a weekly basis. It was something you looked forward to, and just getting to dig into the subject matter. It's not like you're networking at a shallow level. You really get to dug into substantive topics, and it leads to fascinating conversations that are thought-provoking. These weekly activities, they build camaraderie, as I mentioned, to those people that make intros and connections. They really become your support system. Whether you're looking for a job or even there's people who are looking to create new businesses or new organizations, and they may throw ideas out there. Can you review this proposal or this overview of something I'm trying to do, or my resume? You get access to these people who are willing to review those things. It kind of can be difficult to just reach out to people in your network to ask them to give you a peer review. But in this case, everybody's doing it. So it makes it really easy to approach people and get feedback that you can pick and choose what you want to integrate into your process and approach. Access to a diverse range of expert speakers, as it was noted, scientists, policy people, advocacy people, people that are in electrification or food systems, just a wide range, and you get to ask them questions since there's guest speakers on a weekly basis. And then finally, I'll just note that these assignments themselves I thought it was great that they make them so flexible, because you may not know if you're looking for a job or looking to create something for yourself or just trying to do something at the advocacy level, but they make it So it caters to all of those people and everybody can get something out of this. For me, the outcomes ultimately at the end of the day were I was able to overcome a bit of resistance to redefining myself. I didn't know how I wanted to define myself on LinkedIn or a resume and my cover letter. And I was able to, the second part was really refine my focus and decide what is my strategy moving forward. I was able to kind of hone in on an area at the end of it after seeing the wide breadth. And I just really went after that and was able to totally revamp all of those assets that I needed to use in my job search, ultimately landing in a successfully landing in a job. So that's my story. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that very much. And if you have questions for David, we'll get to those in just a bit. But let's hear from Richard. Richard, thanks for being here.
Hey everyone. Again, thanks for the opportunity to be here. I'm glad to be able to share my experience with you guys. And I have a lot of similar, I think I'll echo David a little bit in my experience. Although I did take the course last summer this time, so so it's been a little while for me. Um, but a little information about me. So I enrolled in the course really primarily kind of was driven to find a job. I had been unemployed for about a year at the time I signed up for the Terra course. Uh, After a career, pretty long career in higher education and nonprofits. And so, I left that job after probably a good 5 or 6 years trying to change it within. So I worked with a nonprofit that supported community colleges across the country, and I was like, hey, we need to we need to help community colleges that we work with understand climate change and impact on students, et cetera, and so on. Which I thought was a really great idea and really well thought out, but I got zero receptivity to it. And so, kind of maybe impulsively, some people say bravely, maybe impulsively, I left my job thinking, it's going to be a walk in the park just to get another job. I have these transferable skills, but it really is challenging. Um, in that, probably the past 5 or 6 jobs I've gotten in my career have been through a network, right? Not really applying for a job, but just I've written my own job description for the past 3 years, and I really didn't have that within this field, right? I was transitioning to a different field where I didn't have that network, and it was starting to dawn on me that that was the case. And so that was really the driving reason for me to sign up for this course is for the networking opportunities, which were promoted and which Greg talked about a little bit. I had really kind of done a lot of pursued a lot of self-education courses and kind of understanding climate science. I felt pretty well versed in kind of climate science and understanding it, and had been thinking about it for quite some time. Um, and so I thought, well, just I'll have an opportunity to connect with folks, um, hopefully that'll lead to to a job which I really needed. Um, and I think that from my experience, I guess the graduation was in August, was that was a really strong. I mean, throughout the course, as David mentioned, there's so many opportunities that you had to connect with your cohort colleagues, and also with mentors and speakers. And I mean, there was like very, very rich amount of opportunities and resources and ways that you could, again, even if you're coming into it from a different profession, as I was, to really connect with folks. And I built relationships over the course that I continue to have to this day, with folks in my cohort or with other folks that I met, have been really kind of productive relationships that I've had. I'll also say for me, it was a really I guess I didn't really know I needed this, but I did, which was a really validating experience. I had been insinuating myself into a lot of places where my interest in climate education and how higher ed role and K-12 role and kind of the work that we need to do around climate change was really important, but wasn't being talked about as much as these other kind of more technical solutions. And so, I did join the course thinking, well, maybe I'll discover, that I'm really into, energy systems, or kind of a more technical aspect of climate change, that I could really make a true pivot into one of these. And what I found was that I actually wasn't kind of the oddball that had been in these spaces for the past year, but there was a lot of there's so many people in my cohort from all over the world, from so many backgrounds and professions, that I was able to find the folks that had similar backgrounds as me, that or similar interests, or a receptivity to the ideas, and making space for conversations that maybe weren't planned through the curricula, right? So you had all the group work, and there's a lot of social activities that were Slack, and so it was able to really engage people in kind of new ideas, or talking about topics that maybe weren't planned, that were really helpful to me, and kind of you know me understanding that I didn't really need to pivot too dramatically from my grad, but there would be an opportunity for me, kind of in this interest. I didn't have to switch over to food and agriculture or whatever else that maybe I was less interested in, but to kind of pursue this kind of interest that I had, that I think really kind of motivated me, and kind of invigorated me. Um, so that was really good as well. There's a lot of content. I see some of the questions mentioned, like, can you do 100% of the course? If you just do the required, week by week course over 12 weeks, right? There's a lot to it. There's a lot of content. Greg, I think there's a certain number of hours a week you can expect, which is, I don't remember, 6 to 10 or something like that, depending. Um, if you were to do everything, I don't know if you could. Like, there's something happening every day, multiple times a day, from guest speakers to panels to social events, networking events, that it's just really rich. And so, with me having the kind of focus on the network, was really an organizing principle for me, to really like take in the stuff, that the kind of the course content and opportunities to connect with others and mentors and things like that were the things that I focused on. And then when I could, maybe you know look at some other additional course materials or things like that when I could, I had the time. Um, but it would be really hard to do 100% of the course, which is really great. Again, you have this resource. I still have access to my account and all the course content, right? So that's still available to me. Maybe the kind of live weekly stuff that changes is, again, that stuff is really beneficial to take advantage of at the time, if you can, since it's more, it's not necessarily something that happens for every cohort. Um, so again, I think the takeaways for me, I went into this course looking for a job that kind of had a similar, um, this kind of looks similar to to my career, and I realized that wasn't going to happen. That I from the conversations we had in the course, which, again, another question in the chat was about kind of global South perspectives or whatever, but really my colleagues in my cohort were from all over, and so the assignments and the way the course content was approached was really about what is your context, right? What is your context for what you want to do? What inspires you? Where do you live? What are the problems there? So if you're in the global South, or if you're, in another context, everyone brought those perspectives into the assignments and into the group work that we did, so that I felt I learned a lot about, different forms of agriculture and some of the needs in India, uh, due to land rent. I forgot what it's called, but land lease or something. Some cultural issues and some issues specific to that area, right? That the person I was on the project team with, we looked at that, right? Because that was a kind of an issue facing them. It wasn't a one that I was necessarily familiar with, but was certainly interesting. So I think so. You're given the opportunity in this kind of spaces to really contextualize what you're learning and the material that you're learning and the assignments that you do um, to kind of build out this very personalized outcome for you at the end of the course, which is, what kind of actions do you want to take? What have you learned about yourself and kind of your aims and how are you going to contribute to this very big problem? There's lots of places you can contribute. And so I realized I really had been working at this kind of national, almost theoretical project management level, where, in higher ed that I wasn't on the ground working with students or teachers necessarily. It was like overseeing kind of grants and projects. And then I really want to work at a local level, and, basically kind of have direct involvement with the folks I was working with. And so it took a while. I just moved to a new town. And so this past spring, I just started my job at a Piedmont Environmental Alliance. And, we're a very local, very small nonprofit, which is very different from my past experience. And I'm, the what I'm bringing to it, my education experience is really contributing to this. I have workforce education experience that is kind of really informing my job, as well as building things, building programs, which is really what I'm doing, building a program with businesses in the area. And so, I don't think I would have, necessarily come to that conclusion without this course and without really thinking about transferring kind of my skills and my career to this is a very different context, but one where my skills are really valuable and applicable as well. So, if you can do it, if you have the time and um, you bring yourself to it every week, I think is a great way to whether you're doing a job transition or you just want to understand more about the kind of climate science. I found the content was really valuable. I learned a lot of stuff that I guess I thought I was a little bit more informed, but I wasn't, and so I learned a lot. And but I would say from my experience, it was the people in my cohort and the other folks that I came into contact with that was really the kind of resonated the most with me, and I felt was the strongest component of the program, and one that's just hard to get through just maybe the other forms beside a synchronous kind of experience course like this. And I'll stop there.
Thanks, Richard. And I know we've answered some of the questions already as they've come up, and appreciate taking those on. And happy to go to more. I want to call out. You mentioned the community piece. The community is what made me stick around for sure. I came to learn, and I did learn, and there's great knowledge. And I thought I knew a lot, and I realized that there were real holes in my knowledge, and I needed to fill those in to truly understand this issue. But the community is what's kept me around. Like, I don't know about all of you, but I don't live in a place where I get to talk about climate with people who are receptive to some of my thoughts and concerns all the time. And meeting people all over the world every week to talk about that was really, really helpful, at least for me. And I hear that from other fellows. I also want to call out, I get to do a lot of events with the fellows during the cohort, and the graduation session is one of the most motivating things I see. People actually cry and talk about how meaningful it was to be with people they could talk with openly and who cared and where they felt supported and cared about. So a lot of people don't think they need community, or they're not searching for that, and yet it ends up being one of the highlights of the entire program. Uh, so as far as questions, I see a number here. We've answered some in the chat. On the question of the Global South, we do our best. We try to accommodate all sorts of different viewpoints. It is difficult to fully think about the context everywhere. And as Richard mentioned, we try to invite fellows to bring that into the program. Our assignments, like assignment 2, is what is going on in your local context, to try to share with each other and learn from each other what is going on. We bring in speakers such as Chandni Singh, who's coming in. She's from India. She was a lead author on the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Changes Assessment Report 6. She was a lead author for Working Group 2 on climate justice. And in her talk, she said, I'm not going to talk about North America at all. I don't know anything about North America. And we're like, that's fantastic because we do, and we want to hear your perspective. And so we try to bring in speakers and learn where we can. And we could always do better on that. I'll just name that as well, but we try pretty hard. Um, let's see. If you have a burning question, please feel free to use the raise hand function and we'll try to get to your question. Um, talked about considering a career switch. Richard talked about that and answered in the chat. Are there further questions on that? A number of people are doing that. We do offer a great deal of career support. The success of getting jobs, and I put up some data in the chat or in the presentation earlier. We don't screen people for how likely are you to get a climate job. We might go, wow, we know there are jobs in this field. We should screen all of our applicants for this job so they all get jobs, and then we can brag about how we got people jobs. We take a different approach. We want everybody working on climate. And I'll give you the big key or the big secret of LFA and frankly climate. There is no silver bullet solution to climate change. There is no one answer. And what that means is there are lots and lots and lots of things that we need to do. And as there are lots and lots of things, we call it silver buckshot, if you know anything about a shotgun and all these little things that have to go out and we have to do all of these things at once. And the great thing about that, well, the dark side of that is that it's not as easy to solve because there's not just one lever that we can pull that will solve it. But the great thing is no matter your skills, interests, or background, there is a role for you working on climate. And that could be a climate job, but it could be some other way because we need to do all sorts of different things. And so there really is a role for almost everybody working, well, for everybody, no matter what you've done and what your skills and interests are. Um, Other questions or comments on that, David or Richard, do you want to add?
No, I think that's accurate. It's is certainly true for me that I part of it all was figuring out how I could use my existing skill set and apply it. And it's not always easy to find that specific company or organization that your existing skill set ties into, and that can take time. But certainly, this whole process helped me find ultimately, make that happen.
Yeah, I would concur. I think again, I think the course itself, and if you look at the course content, is just really comprehensive as it needs to be. But no matter what you do or what you're thinking about, or kind of what your background or experience is or your education is, there's a place that needs something or needs work, or a place that you can contribute because it really is everything, you know.
And just a little bit further elaboration on mine is as well is that uh, clearly I had an interest in home electrification type things and some knowledge within that space, but I wasn't finding a clear fit for my skill set within that domain. But with the class, since there's such depth to the content, I got to learn a lot more about energy and the grid and the other side of the equation. And that's an area that I decided to really start pursuing more. There was a lot of really fascinating work going on in that space and more work where the customer success skill set happened to apply. So it opened up it created more ideas and such for which direction I could go and how to pursue it.
Thanks, both. A question about what criteria is used for selection. So we used to be pretty selective about who we let into LFA, and we actually have changed that. We want as many people working on climate as possible because we do believe there's a role for everybody and everyone can help. And so basically, if you fill out the application and you truly want to join, we will accept you. And some people go, oh, you could end up with really poor quality candidates. We never have. The people who self-select for the program are incredible. Like I'm constantly overwhelmed by the skills and backgrounds of the people who have come to our program. I also want to call out that if you're younger or don't have impressive skills and backgrounds, there's a role for you too. We want you too. There really is a role. We want to be as all-encompassing as we possibly can be. So I just encourage you to join us. And we have not had, I've had PhD climate scientists go through the program. We've had professors in various topics go through the program, and they have not felt that the quality of the fellows was too low for them or anything like that, that they were disappointed with the people in the program. Um, So yeah, I encourage you to apply if you're interested. And I think you'll find that the other fellows are amazing. And no matter where you are accepted and wanted. And we want your perspective and want you joining us to work on this big issue. How many people are typically in a cohort? That's a great question. 75 to 150. So it's a big range. It kind of depends. Starting in July sometimes can be a smaller cohort because it's summertime in Northern Hemisphere and a lot of people are on holiday. But we would actually love to get to around 200 people in this upcoming cohort. I don't know if we'll quite get that many people, but we are prepared. We have instructors lined up and are prepared to do that. So somewhere in that range. But again, you have this huge cohort, and they all have animal names. We have an okapi and a koala. We do animal names. We pick endangered species and we go alphabetically and name alphabetically. The reason we do that is to call out that it's not just humans that we're concerned about in this world. We also want to think about the other species and highlight some of the threats to some of these species. Like people have not heard of an okapi, and now David knows something about those, and he's done some research and hopefully cares a little bit more about those. Yeah, Richard.
Yeah, and I think you should say like even though so I was in a koala, very fairly large cohort, but we were divided up into smaller groups where a lot of the work that I did on a week-to-week basis was a smaller group. I think of around 30 or so people maybe, and then sometimes even smaller. Those are broken up into smaller groups. So it's not like you're there's opportunity to get to know a lot of people in your cohort, but also there's some subsets of groups so that you're not kind of lost to the crowd.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we try to keep the lab groups to around 25. Sometimes they go a little bit over that, sometimes a little under that. And the lab is the group that you're going to meet with for 90 minutes every week. And that becomes really the core group of people that you get to meet. The cool thing about a large cohort is that, there are others that you can meet in the cross cohort networking sessions and others. So you just have a big group to meet, but you'll work most closely with the people within your lab group. So 20, 25, potentially up to 30 people. Yeah. Um, let's see. We had other questions on here. Is there anything burning that someone wants to ask? Again, please feel free um, to raise your hand. Marilyn asked, unemployed and exploring options, what would we recommend you look into? That's a great question. I would encourage you just to follow news, but be picky in what you follow and who you follow. There's a blue sky if you're on social media. There are some groups. Catherine Hayhoe has put together a group of people to follow. She's a climate scientist from the United States in Texas who's worked on the U.S. climate assessment, has written books on climate communications, and she's got lists of people to follow. You can actually get a great deal of information from not following random people, but scientists and others and who are sharing results. Richard, David, any thoughts on what someone might want to do in the next month?
I mentioned it earlier when I spoke, but the Paul Hawken books I think are they're not necessarily books that you want to read cover to cover. I mean, you may or you may not, but they're good for perusing, and you can often get them at a local library. So they're that and Regeneration's the other book. They have kind of different angles that they approach it with, but Drawdown just shows you it's a good uh, intro to the wide range of solutions that exist, and also gives you a little bit of a sense of the scale of the solution, like the level of potential impact. You could also they have websites, both of those, so you could even check that out first without having to leave your home.
Yeah, and Catherine Hayhoe's book is called Saving Us. There's a fantastic anthology out there, All We Can Save.
I was going to recommend that. All We Can Save is
Yeah.
a great book.
And I was a panda. So the funny thing, we all remember what fellow, what kind of animal we were. I was a panda. I was in the fourth cohort ever. We've now run 32. I've been involved ever since. And we had Catherine Wilkinson, who's one of the editors of All We Can Save, and her guest talk was just fantastic, her keynote, and really cool way to kick off. There are a number of other great books. If you're interested, there's a guy named David Roberts who has a podcast called Volts. He does what he calls explanatory journalism. So he doesn't just report the news, he explains what it means and he brings on experts and guests and talks about that stuff. He does have a paid version, but also you can view it for free. David was a keynote speaker for us. Catherine Hayhoe was a keynote speaker for us. We have recordings of their events. They were fantastic events. You get access to those as well. Um, yeah. So I would probably just and keep your eyes open. I would start thinking about what kind of roles you might want to get if you're unemployed and looking for a job. And yeah, just like keep your eyes open to expand. Like David said, he was looking for one particular kind of role and expanded his what he was looking at. Realized energy was really important as well as home electrification, right? So you start to expand on where you are. Can I apply now? And if I get selected, can't join in July? Yes, you could defer. That's the other thing. If you start the program and you don't have time in that 3 week full refund, you can defer at any time, but we actually charge a little bit if you defer like 8 weeks in. There's a small fee to defer to a future cohort, but if you want to defer in those first 3 weeks, no problem. We can just move you to the next cohort. And I would encourage you to go ahead and sign up.
Yeah,
And
that got me to sign up, Greg. I'll say, like, it was kind of no risk, right? You had 3 weeks to dip your toe in the water and see if you wanted it. No, they were giving the heads up, like, hey, you have one more week to decide before we charge your credit card or whatever. And then if finances are an issue, which they were with me, apply for a scholarship. They seem to be, try to accommodate you if they can, so that cost isn't an issue.
I'll just say on scholarships, what I love to say is if you don't need the scholarship, please don't apply because we want to give really generous scholarships to those who do need them. And if you do need one, please do apply for a scholarship and tell us how much you need. Like our ultimate goal is to enable everyone to go through this program and learn. And I hear all the time at the end of the program, it would be amazing if everyone in the world could go through this program. Wouldn't it be a better world we're living in? And we kind of agree with that. So we want you. We want to help you. We don't offer 100% scholarships. We just aren't in a position to be able to do that. If that's something you really think you need, you can send a message to me. Or if you have questions, you can send a message to me, Greg at Terra.do. I'll put it in the chat. Um, but yeah, if you need a pretty good scholarship, ask for it. And we'll do our best to accommodate you. Again, we want people to do this. We want people working on climate. It takes all of us. And the more people who start, the better off we're going to be. That's one of the other big lessons we may have heard. And when the IPCC report on 1.5 C of warming came out, and then Greta Thunberg and others became famous, and Fridays for Future were going on, and 2019, and there was lots of climate action, but there was something that we had 10 years to do something, and it made it sound like the world was going to end. The world's not going to end if we don't stop warming at 1.5 C. Some say we may not have already stopped it there. It's not going to end if we don't stop warming at 2 degrees. But every tenth of a degree of warming that we do avoid suffering for millions of people and for species and for our ecosystems. And therefore, there's always a great time to work on this. It's really important and it's never too late. There's an old proverb, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time is today. So most of us didn't start working on climate 20 years ago, but we can start today. So we encourage you to join us. Other questions that we haven't gotten to, I'm trying to scan through the questions over here, but yeah, please feel free to raise your hand or just call out, come off mute and ask. Let's see. And Richard or David, if you see something and want to call it out, please go for it. Um, So Kim's question, interested to learn about how to support dam removals. We don't get into that specifically within this course, but absolutely, I think some of what we talk about and learn could be applied to how do we make change? How do we restore ecosystems, et cetera? So we may not talk about it specifically, dam removals. Um, it's kind of interesting, uh, building dams for, in particular, large scale dams have been considered clean energy and a climate solution, but actually create a number of other problems. And generally, those are not there's a lot of talk about what we need to do to get to 100% clean energy globally, and it includes hydro, but it does not involve building new dams. And in fact, removing the most harmful of the dams is something that's often talked about there, and we'll talk about a little bit. It is not a main feature of the program. And yeah, I see, looking forward to applying and hopefully joining. Hope you do. It would be so fantastic to see you. I think the program's fun. I think it's exciting. Um, Many people say that the highlight of their week was their lab session every week and coming and seeing these familiar faces and getting to talk to people. And we try to make it as welcoming and warm as possible. Uh, when I was a fellow and Catherine Wilkinson did our guest talk, she talked about community as really one of the biggest solutions. And I actually agree with that, that if we're going to really solve this and work towards a better future, we've got to be inclusive and invite as many people in and make the warmest, friendliest community we possibly can. It's something that's missing in many places in the world. And so we try to do that within this program. Are there other questions? Oops, we've gone over an hour. I apologize. We're over time. David, Richard, really appreciate your time. If you have questions, please feel free to send them. I put my email into the chat and hope to see you. And again, Richard, David, thanks so much. Thank you all for being here, for your questions, for your patience as you sat and watched this whole thing. And best to you.
Thank you all very much.
Take care all.